Hello and welcome to the Horror Fan in a Van podcast. I'm your host, John Pardee, and today we'll be reviewing We Are Still Here and the first Sinister movie. And of course, pitting the two villains against each other to see who will come out on the top. We will also get into a new TV show I have been watching called Slasher and talking about this channel and what's to come. But before we get into the first movie review, I would like to ask you guys to go check out my sponsor at www.rhetoriccoffee.com. Use product code Oracle1 to get your 30% off your next order of coffee. I'm actually drinking this stuff right now, and I gotta say, I do love it. It's helped me get through the day, and it smells delicious even before it starts to roast in the in the coffee pot. So let's get into We Are Still Here. So, kicking off this podcast with We Are Still Here, the basic plot line is every 30 years, a lonely old house in the fields of New England wakes up and demands a sacrifice. The release date was December 8th, 2015, with a director by the name of Ted Geohagen, I think. Yeah. Running time is 84 minutes, and I gotta say my favorite moment is how the director and writer managed to convey the fact in the first 8 minutes there's one sentence of dialogue, if not a sentence. Um, it's completely silent pretty much, and you could tell that the family was going through a dramatic period of time. The first dialogue in this film is talking about how the mother wants to hang up a picture of her son, which immediately I was like, oh, their son must have died. That's why they're moving. And that's exactly what happened. Their son died in a car accident 2 months before they moved out. Um, so let's get into This is going to be uh, kind of a review, I guess, is be a better way to say it. I love the first part of this movie, but I did dock it in some of the ratings, so don't complain about my ratings. They're my ratings, my opinion. Basically, I liked the movie a lot. I wasn't expecting what I was going to get from it. I do not like supernatural movies. I kind of feel like they're overused, and a lot of new filmmakers are using that, even though they don't have the budget to do like the CG or the practical effects. They don't have the budget to do that. Um, I think the only ones that I really care for is Insidious, and actually the second movie on this list. But I feel like this movie did a really good job with conveying the fact that there was demons in the house. The writer is very talented because he was able to tell a whole story before the movie even kind of had any dialogue. And you could tell just by the mom talking about the picture of hanging their picture of their son up that he didn't like. Um, and then it pans out to the dad in the local bar drinking, and you're like, oh, well, it's either he's alcoholic or he's just trying to cope with whatever way possible to deal with the loss of his son. Which, in fact, there's a lot of drinking in this movie. Um, I feel like this movie is set in like the 80s, maybe 70s, uh, or it's like It Follows kind of timeline where it doesn't really exist. All I know is I want their friend's son's car, which about before the middle mark of this movie, the mother wants to call on her friend who is a paranormal investigator who can talk to ghosts and entities. The two paranormal experts come over. They're basically hanging out. They go out to dinner. They're waiting for their son to get there. They put a note on the door. And basically, son and his girlfriend get there. They're hanging around a little bit, drinking and whatnot. Uh, they hear a sound from downstairs in the cellar. They go to investigate. The son of the paranormal investigators goes downstairs. The girlfriend is upstairs at the top of the steps. They're talking back and forth, and all of a sudden she doesn't respond. She can't say anything. She's kind of shocked. and the boyfriend's still talking, trying to get what's wrong with her. Then he turns around and gets a face full of demon hand and burns to death pretty much. The girlfriend runs trying to find the keys to the car, gets into the car after finding the keys, drives on the road, is freaking out like you do if you just saw your boyfriend get killed by a demon. Um, she kind of adjusts the rearview mirror, looks into the back seat, and then there's the demon sitting there. Then you hear a and basically the demon took his hand, shoved it into the back seat, through the girl, and then the blinker of the car goes on, kind of swerves to the left, and then back to the right again before coming to a stop. And then the demon puts them back into the cellar, where they can be sacrificed. Um, Now that's all I'm going to talk about because the next parts are going to be in my rating system. So let's just get right into the ratings. There's going to be several points that I want to hit that are going to be rated on, which is the death scenes, how creative they are, the acting, the beginning, the middle, and the end, the visual effects, the storyline, the music, if it's rewatchable, and the scariness. Now, the rewatchable, typically what I do is if it's a new movie like the trailers, this is what I would do. But we're not doing trailers this week. If it's rewatchable, below 5 is no, I'm not going to see it in theaters. Above 5 is yes. And if we were also doing trailers this week, I would also play the yay or nay game, which is basically the same thing. Yay, I would go see it in the theaters. Or no, yay, I would buy the DVD when it came out if it looked good. And nay, if I would skip the DVD release. So, moving on, we have the death scenes. I gave a 9 out of 10. With the favorite death is the paranormal expert. Basically, what happens is the guys stay home. The two guys, the two fathers stay home, and the two mothers go to the store. The paranormal expert, that's also the mother, says absolutely no seances because they woke up the night previous screaming, saying there's a bunch of evil here. And of course, the guy paranormal expert is like, oh, okay. And as soon as they leave, it's like, we're going to do a seance. So they start doing a seance, and he gets possessed. And this was a really creative way. Basically, what happens is he's saying like starting to communicate with him, and then you can start kind of seeing that something's not right. Now, during this part, the father, whose kid died, is basically thinking that the paranormal expert is messing with him because he's like, "Well, pull the skin off of his bones," blah 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 blah. Um, that's my favorite death probably in the whole movie. That's why I gave the death scenes part of this a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the acting, I gave it 8 out of 10 because it was pretty much flawless. Um, there were some parts that kind of stumbled a little bit, but overall it did good. Beginning of the film, I gave a 7 out of 10, but my favorite moment was the 8 minutes of silence that still managed to convey that the family was going through the loss of their son and struggling with that loss. The middle, I gave it 8 out of 10. Favorite moment was the death of the possessed guy, like I previously stated above. The ending, I gave a 8 out of 10 as well, with the death of all the townspeople who tried sacrificing the two. Basically, after the death of the father paranormal expert, the mother says, "I got to get out of here." Opens up the door, swings the door open, and then her head gets blown off by a shotgun, which happens to be the neighbors who came over and visited earlier, uh, previously in the film. And then that's when all the townspeople are trying to like kill all the people in the family as a sacrifice, so that the demons don't come and sacrifice the townspeople. But in the end, basically what happens is townspeople start getting slaughtered in the house. The neighbor that's the guy neighbor that came over in the beginning holds the family by shotgun point. Demon standing behind him because he still thinks that they have an agreement. And basically, the demon steps closer and then kills the old neighbor guy. And basically, then the demons start holding hands, and then they disappear. The visual effects. Oh, also, before we get into that, and the ending, throughout the movie, the mother keeps saying that their son is with them in the house. She can feel it. At the end of the movie, after the demons are killed and everything, the mother has this dazed look on her face, goes down to the cellar. The father follows her, and then he looks down the stairs and says, "Hello, Bobby," which is the name of their son that died. So now getting into the visual effects, I'm not sure if they used CGI or if it was all practical effects, but I gave this moment a 10 out of 10 just because of how cool the demons looked and how they did the blood splatter and everything. It was really, really good. Now moving on to the story, I gave it a 9 out of 10 just because it kind of was original. They I deducted 1 point because there was other movies that did this, but by far this is probably the best paranormal movie I've seen besides Insidious. So that's always good. The score for this, we're getting into the music now. The score is 8 out of 10. It had a really creepy vibe to it, really, really unsettling. Now moving on to rewatchable, I gave it a 7 out of 10 because I will rewatch it. I'll probably rewatch it with friends, but probably a year or two down the road. Give me a chance to forget a little bit about it. And the scariness is a 7 out of 10. There is a few, not jump scares, but there are a few scares that you're not expecting. They don't really have a lot of jump scares. I classify jump scares as something that comes unexpectedly, but they also try and do like a sharp, loud noise just to kind of get you scared. And they don't really have a lot of jump scares, but I gave it a 7 out of 10 because it was kind of scary, but it wasn't too terribly bad. And this film altogether has an overall score of 81%, which I believe is the best movie that we've reviewed on this. So, without further ado, let's get into Sinister 1. So, the plot for Sinister 1 is a true crime writer, Ellison Oswald, played by Ethan Hawke, is in a slump. He hasn't had a bestseller in more than 10 years and is becoming increasingly desperate for a hit. So, when he discovers the existence of a snuff film showing the deaths of a family, he vows to solve the mystery. He moves his own family into the victim's home and gets to work pretty much. However, when old film footage and other clues hint at a presence of a supernatural force, Ellison learns that living in the house may be fatal. This movie was released on October 12th, 2012 in the USA. I believe there was an earlier release for out of country, different countries in the world. I believe it was earlier releases for that. The director is Scott Derrickson. A box office got 77.7 million US dollars. Screenplay by Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. Now, my favorite moment is when the main character, which is Ethan, looks at a picture of a bush out the window, takes the picture, puts it up by the window, pulls it away, or the picture is basically showing the bush with Bughuul, which is the entity in this film. Picture of Bughuul in the bushes. He looks at the bushes, nothing, puts the picture up, sees the picture, looks back, and then Bughuul's standing in the bushes staring at him. That was by far my favorite moment in the movie. My favorite death, however, was the lawnmower scene where it's the snuff film where the kid is about to kill his family with the lawnmower. Basically, you're not sure what's happening. It's basically the push mower is turned on, and then it's just kind of running across the lawn. About a minute later, uh, it's full speed running, and then you see like the first person who is a woman, and then you hear like a scream, like you would if you're about to get killed by a lawnmower. Um, and that was a really gruesome death. It was kind of slower paced than the rest of them. You weren't sure what was happening. You were pretty sure that someone was going to die, but you weren't sure what was going to happen with that. Um, Now this one has it's the same rating system that I use for the rest of them, except they're a little out of order. So my rating is going to be on acting, beginning, middle, and end, visual effects, story, music, rewatchable, scariness, and deaths, which is the creativity of the deaths, and the overall rating. So we have the acting. I gave a 9 out of 10 just because it was pretty decent acting. Uh, really no flaws, but there were a couple. Beginning, I gave it 8 out of 10. Uh, just because it was the actor it was the writer moving in, getting settled down, and kind of first discovering the films. Middle, I gave a 9 out of 10 just because of the attic scene and all, like, with where he finds the films, and then Bagul is like, man, I'm Bagul, I'm gonna kill you. But, and then that also shows the lawnmower scene also. The ending, I'm giving a 9 out of 10 just because I didn't know that they were going to kill off everybody. Um, and it was kind of gruesome because the little girl was doing it. The story, I gave not the story, the visual effects, I gave a 9 out of 10. Bagul could have used some work, but I believe it was the attic scene. He was going over footage of him in the attic, and he kind of goes back and replays, and like you can see like a bunch of ghost hands, which is from the little kids that Bagul has possessed and killed over the years, push him out of the attic. I thought that was pretty cool. Bagul in some shots looked pretty cool. I'm not sure if that was visual effects or practical effects, but the storyline I gave a nice 8 out of 10. Um, I did watch the second one, and I watched both of these guys in theaters, just because that was a while ago. I believe it was 2014. The music I'm giving a 7 out of 10 just because it's eerie. It's not like fast paced. It's just kind of steadily eerie, with a few kind of sharp tones in there. Now, rewatchable, I gave a 10 out of 10 just because I've gone back and rewatched this about 3 different times. And I kind of I watch the movies I rewatch are Sinister 1, the first Ring movie, the Friday the 13th films, Halloween films, Trick or Treat, and then the Chucky films, all in the month of October. And then in December, I watch Krampus and all of that. You gotta watch Krampus if you like horror in December. Scariness, I gave a 9 out of 10. The scene in the attic where he's kind of looking around and then Bagul kind of pops his head into the frame scared the living shit out of me when I saw it the first time. Deaths, I'm giving it 8 out of 10 just because it was a really cool way to show the deaths. It's like a point of view, like the children were holding the camera in front of their faces, and that gives this overall score of 86%. I gave this one a little bit higher, which was 86, just because of how cool it was when you first saw it in theaters. Really, really good film, honestly. But now, the moment you guys have probably all been waiting for, the monster fight. So, we're going to have the demons, the demon family from We Are Still Here versus Bagul from Sinister 2. They have all their powers, all that what they do in the regular film, they have it. And the winner is, got to say, I believe the Bagul would win this fight. Now you're probably saying, what that? No, there's 4 of the demons and 1 Bagul. No, because basically these guys have been doing this. You got to think these guys are basically fighting after their movies are done. Sinister movies are done. I believe this one's done. I don't think they're doing a sequel or prequel to this. So with that being said, they have all their powers. They have all the things that they used. And Bagul could use limitless amounts of kids to defeat the demons one way or another, since Bagul takes the youngest one out of the family, kills the youngest one becomes a demon, and then they kill their family, or I think they kill their family and then they become a demon or something. And the demons in We Are Still Here is basically just one family plus a couple others. The um, I believe the paranormal expert's son becomes one. But Bagul basically has an army of demon children at his disposal. So that's my winner. Comment down below who you guys think would win, and comment also why you think he would win, or why you think, if you picked Bagul, comment why you picked him. If you picked the demons from We Are Still Here, comment why you picked them. But now it's time to get into the horror TV shows. But first, let's listen to something I have to say. So this isn't a sponsored post. I'm just doing this because I love their work. I stumbled upon them. You guys heard me review one of their videos called The Birch. This is Crypt TV. If you guys were a fan of the Tales of the Crypt series, with like the short horror stories, these guys are the ones to do it. Basically, it's a horror short film channel. They have 48, I believe, if I can find. They have a lot of videos that either 38 or 40 something. 38 videos and 11,926 subscribers, and they do really great work. They have scary new videos every day, and their practical effects, as well as their CGI, looks phenomenal, guys. Actually, as I just refreshed my page, they have 12,160 plus me. So go do a good thing and go subscribe to them. Their new video, which is a little off the top, grossed me out so much. I love horror, but just the sound and the practical effects they use for that, and a little off the top, is basically a disturbing and gory yet comedic short film. And I absolutely love it, guys. So go check it out. Thank you. So the horror TV shows that I recently watched was Slasher, which came out in 2016. I thought it came out before then, but maybe I was just stupid. But the plot of the first season is Sarah Bennett, who's the main character. Her parents were murdered by a killer known as the Executioner 30 years ago. Now, however, she returns to the quiet community of Waterbury, where the killings occurred, to start over with her husband Dylan. But upon arriving, they discover that things haven't changed much. Sarah quickly finds herself at the center of a series of murders that revolve around the 7 deadly sins, which appear to be the work of the Executioner. But the original killer, who went by the name Tom Winston, is in prison, so it can't be him. That means somebody else is behind the mess this time around, and the perp's true identity must be discovered to stop this latest string of murders. As long buried secrets begin to surface, everybody around Sarah is a suspect, or a victim. Now, this TV show is well received by critics, and I gotta say, I fucking love this TV show. I got a 6 out of 7 out of 10 on IMDb, but let's get into the ratings, guys. So the plot, I gave a 8 out of 10, just because I know slasher films don't have a big budget, but these guys didn't really have a big budget to work with, and they were taking a big risk developing a horror TV show. This is right around the time I believe Scream Season 2 was on. And Scream Season 2 did horrible, I believe. It kind of wasn't as good as Scream Season 1, but it did horrible, and people don't really want to take a risk on horror TV shows too terribly much. So I gave the plot an 8 out of 10 just because they took a risk. It was good writing, it was good everything. The story behind it was good. Um, Acting, I gave a 7 out of 10. The death scenes, I gave a 9 out of 10. Just because of how gruesome they were. There was good practical effects and everything in there, so that was also good. Um, I'm not going to spoil anything, so I can't go over any of the deaths. The beginning, I gave it 8 out of 10. It was kind of a slow start. Nothing really happened in the first episode, if I remember correctly. The middle, gave it 8 out of 10 because that was pretty much like, I believe the beginning was like 1 through 3, middle was 4 through 6, and then end was 7 through 8, which was the final episodes. The ending I did end up giving a 9 out of 10. Same with the visual effects, 9 out of 10, and the music was a 9 out of 10. The music that was used was really good. I really enjoyed the music in here. Scariness, I gave it 8 out of 10 just because some of the deaths kind of scared me. Like some of the deaths I hated. Had one of my biggest fears in it, which was drowning. I don't want to experience drowning. Rewatchable, yeah, it's rewatchable. Gave it a 9 out of 10. Now I probably would skip like the first episode if I went back and rewatched it. Overall total of 84%. And good news, guys, if you guys have watched this already, they are currently filming as of May 1st, 2017, the season 2, the follow-up Slasher season 1. So, without further ado, the TV shows I will be looking into, hopefully I would start watching by next podcast, which is Darknet, which ran from 2013 to 2014, has a total of 1 season and 6 episodes. I've heard good things about it. It's another Canadian TV show. Gonna have to watch it. Trying to find it. Can't really find too terribly much on it. But upcoming on the channel, which is the Horror Fan in the Van channel, and also the Exploring with Oracle, which click that link on the channel art to go to my other site where I play video games or mobile phone games. I do kayaking, adventures, camping. Also, I will be doing farm videos because I do have chickens and I do have a dog. It's just basically like a bunch of vlogs around the farm, pretty much. But as you guys know, I am basically reserving this channel just for the podcast and my latest van build. Van build is basically I'm turning a 1995 Chevy G30 into a camper so I can do more adventures and go on more camping trips and kayaking trips to places that have better views and better the water's probably a lot clearer than where I live at. I live in Delaware, so it's part of the state has blue water, but part of it doesn't. The content on this channel is basically going to be the horror podcast and the van builds, as well as I'll probably move all my van stuff over here. So van builds, camping trips, talking about what's next on the van build, van vlogs, all that. And the future of this podcast, I'm going to do this podcast up until the van is complete, and then I'm going to still continue the podcast. But what's going to happen is I'm probably going to take like a month hiatus after the van's done, record every day, while also camping in the van, and then release those episodes every Saturday so I can start having more time to talk about horror movies and all that. Also, with the podcast, if you guys have noticed that these are only running like 27 minutes, 30 minutes, um, basically my plan is to do the horror bit in the beginning, first 30 minutes, take a break, which would be 40 minutes for me, probably be like 2 minutes for you guys. I'll play some scary soundtracks, um, and then I'll get into like camping trips and all that, talking about that. Uh, so we covered the van build videos. Other channel is basically exploring with Oracle, which would be like the hiking videos and all that. So thank you guys for watching, and please go check out Rhetoric Coffee at www.rhetoriccoffee.com. Use product code Oracle1 to get 30% off your next order of ethical coffee. So without further ado, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. Please like, comment, and share, though. Comment some questions down below, and I will surely answer them if you guys will. If you guys want to hear your answers, I'll probably do those in the beginning of the podcast, though. So, bye.